We're live! Good evening, everyone. Good evening sa aming mga viewers. Good evening, VIFAM. All right. So, we're live for tonight at welcome sa atin. Pang second live na natin to. And yung first live natin is last month entitled Dear Writers, Portraying Blind People in the Media. And for tonight, our live is entitled Dear Disabled World, Diba? Nagpubulol pa ako. Yan. Dear disabled world, be proud, be fierce, be you. Yes. Alright, so, yeah, may mga nanonood na ba? Ayan, hello po sa inyo, sa lahat po ng mga viewers namin ngayon. And before we begin with our live, let us acknowledge the presence of our technical team. Hi, Miss Beverly Bravo. Yan. And then we also have our yung ating sound man, yung naririnig yung background music. Hello to Mr. Jake Reynado. Yan. And then yung tagabasa natin ng comments later on, Miss Carla Sunga, and the rest of the VIFAL team. Hi kay Jai and kay Ninya na nanonood ngayon. Okay, so para saan ba itong live natin for tonight? Yes, ayan. Medyo na-delay. Na-delay ang palakpakan. Ayan. Wala akong kasama ngayong host. Ayan, naninibago tuloy ako. Ayan. Anyway, para saan ba itong ating live for tonight or tungkol saan ba itong ating pag-uusapan ngayon? So, in celebration of the Disability Pride Month, which is hindi siya masyadong napag-uusapan sa mga iba-ibang live or sa mga stream, more on empowerment, di ba, and inclusion. Pero itong disability pride, hindi siya masyadong napag-uusapan. So mamaya, we will be enlightened and be informed by our guests. All right. So, and we are going to celebrate who we are, our disability. We will embrace. Ayan. Let's be proud of our disability. And before we introduce our guests, introduce ko muna yung sarili ko. Kanina pa ako daldal ng daldal. Ayan, my name is Jaylin, or Jay for short, and I will be your host for tonight. Okay, so ready na ba yung ating mga guests? Ayan, I think ready na sila. Pero merong malilate ng konti. Sige, unahin na muna natin. Kompleto na sila. Alright, sige. So, thank you, Miss Bev. Okay, so let's start with our first guest. Ayan, please introduce yourself, Mr. Sir Marco. Ayan, Sir Marco.
Hey, hi, good morning. Good morning coming from Pennsylvania. Yay. And I'm Marco Ramos. I'm a grad student. I'm a PhD student at the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I'm a literature and criticism major. So my area of focus is disability studies. Yeah. So good morning sa inyo. Kasi it's morning over here. I'm in the eastern seaboard of the US. Hi.
Right. Welcome back, Sir Marco. Yan, last live. Suki. Yan. And then our next guest, dito naman. Ayan, say hi to Miss Jen. Hi, Miss Jen.
Hello, everyone. So, I'm Jen Mendoza. I'm the Technical Advisor for Inclusive Employment of Handicap International and a person with cerebral palsy. Hello.
Hello. Yan. Welcome, Miss Jen. At ikaw ay nabinyagan ngayon sa aming live. And then, okay, thank you, Miss Jen. our next guest, say hello to Sir Markus. Hi, Sir Markus.
Hello, everyone. I'm Markus, and I have cerebral palsy, and I'm a member of the UNICEF Global Partnership on Children with Disabilities Youth Council.
All right, welcome, Sir Markus. So, meron pa tayo sanang isang guest, si Jasmin from Billion Strong, pero hindi siya makakarating ngayon. So, pero susubukan daw niya makahabol later kasi nagpabakuna siya. Yan. So, alam niyo naman na kailangan talaga natin ng bakuna, lalo na medyo dumadami na rin yung kakaroon ng Delta variant. So, mas importante ang ating health. Alright. So, kung makahabol siya mamaya, we will welcome her. Okay, so wag na natin patagalin pa ang ating usapan na alam ko magiging fruitful ang ating magiging conversation with our guests. Ayan. So, ano nga ba ang kailangan natin gawin? So, let's first introduce or ano nga ba itong disability pride? So, Sir Marco, pwede bang bigyan mo kami ng overview and a bit of history? Ano ba itong disability pride?
Sige. Ayun. So, disability pride kasi, well, i-define muna natin siya, di ba? So, very simply put, yung disability pride, it's embracing disability as part of someone's identity. So, pag in-unpack natin siya, makikita natin na yung disability, hindi mo lang siya nakikita bilang kondisyon ng katawan ng isang tao. So yung disability, nakikita natin siya bilang bahagi ng kabuuan ng isang tao, no? Part siya ng identity or pagkakakilanlan. So it's the same as sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, race, ethnicity, religion, language spoken, socioeconomic status. So yung disability, kasama siya ng mga factors na to, kasama siya ng mga markers na to. So yung disability pride, very simply put, seeing disability as identity and embracing disability, no, bilang part ng kabuuan ng isang tao. So yun per se yung concept ng disability pride. Tapos kung mag-move in naman tayo dun sa concept ng disability pride as a movement, no, matitrace back natin siya as far as the 70s and the 80s, no. Nung nag-start tayo with the social model of disability in the United Kingdom in the 70s, tapos yung mga series of protests in the US in the late 80s and early 90s, yung protest ng deaf students sa Gallaudet University in Washington DC, yung Capitol Crawl sa Washington DC rin in March, and syempre yung nag-culminate siya, no, the first parang Disability Pride Day is parang coinciding with the ADA or the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is America's primary disability legislation, which was passed in 1990. So medyo matagal na siya, medyo matagal na yung concept ng Disability Pride Day. Pero officially kasi hindi siya legislated. So walang piece of legislation na nag-assign ng July as Disability Pride Month. However, yung mga disability marches, that happened, marami na siya. And the first one happened in 2004. This is in Illinois, sa Chicago. And then other cities followed suit. So you have cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, Boston, yung kapitbahay ko sa Philadelphia, New York City, and Washington. They started having their own disability pride marches.
And then in 2015, South
2015,
Korea, I think. Dito sa South Korea.
right. So other countries as well.
Yes.
The United Kingdom, South Korea, Australia, nagkaroon na rin ng mga disability pride marches. The first area that had the legislation assigning July as Disability Pride Month is New York City. So in 2015, that was 6 years ago, 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, New York City declared July as Disability Pride Month. So yun, and then yun nga, as you've mentioned, hindi siya masyado na pag-uusapan because it's relatively new. Yung Disability Pride Month concept is about 6 years old. So kung 2015 siya, diba? It's about 6 years old. So yun, it's gaining traction. A lot of cities and a lot of groups are participating in Disability Pride Month celebrations all over the world. So it's a fairly new concept. Yep.
Yeah,
Yan, so
so
yun siya.
maganda to na napag-uusapan natin to embracing your disability kasi karamihan ng mga celebrations natin even here in the Philippines or in other countries more on ano siya let's say parang prevention or parang gano'n na yung style. So bihira lang siya na nasasabi natin na we're proud of our disability. So next naman, thank you Sir Marco for that very in-depth explanation of disability pride. Yan. So next naman is, since I mentioned ko kanina more on prevention, yung mga nakikita nating celebrations for yung mga disability-related celebration. So ano naman nga tong models of disability kasi related din siya when it comes to disability pride or sa identity natin. So Sir Marcus, can you explain the models of disability?
So the models of disability are basically are the way we perceive disability. So sometimes it is called as the paradigms of disability. So ito yung mga sa anong lente natin titingnan yung disability. So one of the most prominent models is the traditional model, or sometimes it is called as the moral model or religious model. So here we see disability as something na it's God's will, or maybe it's because of your
Yeah.
immorality, or maybe you lack of faith. That's why you experience that
You're cursed.
sort of disability. Yes, or
Yeah.
you're cursed, no? Or pinaglihi ka. So that's very traditional understanding of what disability is. And the next model would be the charity model, no? And this is still prevalent up until now, even though it's 2021. Marami pa din ang naniniwala dun sa disability model, where we see people with disabilities as victims of the circumstances, and we see disability as something na tragic, na something na nakakaawa yung mga may tao may
Kawawa
pagsana.
naman.
Yes, that's why, di ba, pag nakakita tayo ng mga blind people in the streets, our immediate reaction would be help them, no? When we see people using wheelchair, tutulungan natin sila, pupush natin, ina-assume natin na may kailangan silang tulong. Another model of disability is medical, no? The medical model is very controversial since the medical practitioners think, no, na they are the answer, that they could address the concept of disability, that they are the experts when it comes to disability. They see that if these people will get rehabilitation, or di ba, mabigyan sila ng mga auxiliary services, mabigyan sila ng wheelchair, ng hearing aid, they think na, ay, tapos na yan. Masasolve na natin yung disability. But no, it's not a guarantee na bibigyan natin sila ng mga services na ito, medical services, we bring them sa isang medical institution na masasolve na yung disability. No? That's why, it's a huge shift when it became social model. In the social model now, we see that disability is actually caused by the barriers that is that's being faced by people with disability. So yung mga barriers na ito yung mga environmental barriers, physical barriers, and of course yung pinaka malala sa lahat, no, yung attitudinal barrier, no, na we see people with disabilities as not as able as other people. That's why meron ding ableism because of that notion, because of that negative perceptions toward people with disabilities. And now, we are a rights-based model. No? We see people with disabilities as the experts of ourselves, as the experts of themselves. And we see them as people with rights. And disability is now a human rights issue rather than a charity issue or a welfare issue, no? Charity issue siya. And now, yun, we are the decision makers of ourselves. And if you need something if you want to do something for us, then the best way is to consult us, no? First and foremost. Kasi nothing about us without us. So yun po ang mga models of disability. But di naman siya yung sabing may tamang model or may maling model. Ano lang siya, it's how you present, it's how you understand disability, and kung saan ka, depende sa konteksto mo, no? So for me, I see myself, wala ako dun sa mga model na yun. Nandun ako sa identity model na. No? So medyo mas advanced model yun. So now we see disability as an identity rather than a rights-based model lang. So nandun na ako sa model na yun. Kasi yun. So yun lang. Marami pa siyang iba't ibang model. But then yun lang yung mga prominent models right now.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Sir Markus. Yan, ang daming models pero parang karamihan lalo na siguro yung mga nasa medyo remote areas na yan nga na yung, siguro curse yan, di ba, yung sa traditional model. So, kaya siguro yan din yung nagiging factor bakit hindi nagiging proud yung uh, mga disabled or mga people with disability doon sa kanilang disability dahil sa ganung perception ng mga tao. Okay, so anyway, hello again sa ating mga viewers before we proceed to our next topic. Ayan, so hello again. Our live for tonight is Dear Disabled World, Be Proud, Be Fierce, Be You. Ayan, so mag-comment lang po kayo at later on babasahin po ni Miss Carla ang inyong mga comments. Okay, so for our next part, yan, ito na. So maririnig na natin yung opinion or yung mga sasabihin ng bawat guest natin. So, language and labels. Ito naman pag-usapan natin. So, ano nga ba ito? From the dictionary and para sa inyo or for your personal opinion, ano ang ibig sabihin para sa inyo nitong language and labels? Yan. So, start po tayo sa ating isang guest, si Miss Jen. Ayan. So, lahat kayo ay mabibigyan ng chance para magsalita. Okay, Miss Jen?
Hello. Sorry medyo maingay kasi yung background ko. Pero
sige,
for
okay.
me, very important na part yung language and labels when talking about disability. Because using the right language can create opportunities for people, while using the wrong language can create or perpetuate the barriers na na-experience natin. Maraming mga person with disability, ginagamit nila yung tinatawag na person first language, no? Kung saan inuuna yung person with cerebral palsy, autism, person with kung ano man yung disability na meron ka, no? Okay lang naman yon. I mean, there's no policing around that. Pero for me personally, mas gusto ko yung language na nag-identify talaga as sa akin, disabled. I refer to myself as disabled following the social model. Kasi yun nga yung sinabi ni Markus nire-recognize natin na our disability is because society is not accessible. Society is not inclusive. So, for me, yun talaga. So, syempre, maganda naman na ma-share natin yung pananaw din ng iba pa natin kasama. Ayan.
Yes. Okay. Next, Sir Markus, and then followed by Sir Marco. Okay, go.
Ayun. Language is really important, no? So, I agree with Jen. No, kasi language is not just about political correctness, but also it could perpetuate ableism that if you use the wrong language. So for me, like Jen, I prefer calling myself as a disabled person. No? Dati, super stick ko dun sa person first language kasi dapat recognize natin yung person first before the disability. But because nga, medyo naiintindihan na natin yung konsepto ng disability that actually, disability should be celebrated. No? That's why we have this disability pride. And disability is part of us, is our identity. And di naman magbabago talaga yung kabuuan ng sistema na nagpapalala ng sitwasyon ng mga taong pansanan kung gagamitin natin yung pinaka-politically correct na language. No? It couldn't change, pero it could help. No, it could help in the right approach to people. Pero yun nga, for me, I prefer to be called as a disabled person. So yun.
Okay, next, Sir Marco.
Okay, so dalawa na sila. Sususukan ko pa ng pangatlo. So yan, ako din ganun. I do subscribe to the social model and the identity model. In fact, my research area is the identity model of disability. Ako din, I refer to myself as a disabled person, as a blind person. Naniniwala din kasi ako na yung language na ginagamit when we talk about disability, like what Dave mentioned, no, mahalaga kasi siya. It's very, very important because the language we use reflects our perceptions. So, and if we keep on using language that's not healthy for disabled people, like what they mentioned, it gets perpetuated. So the more that it gets perpetuated, the more siyang kumakalat, and the more that it sticks. Because that's what majority of every, I mean, that's what majority of us are familiar with. So
Yes.
when that happens, it's normalized, nanonormalize siya. So and ako ano, I do subscribe to the identity first language. So blind person, disabled person, that's what I prefer to use ako din. And same as Markus nabanggit niya kanina, no, I used to use the person first model, but the more I understood disability, the more I studied disability from different perspectives, I started shifting to the identity first language. So yun yung ginagamit ko. Sorry. Yep.
Ayun. So, ako din dati parang iniiwasan ko yung word na disabled or tatawagin akong bulag. Ayoko yun dati. So, nung na-expose na ako and nasabi ko na naging accepted ko na yung disability ko, okay lang, blind, bulag. Kahit ano. Basta, I think ang nagiging problem lang din kasi yung way ng pagkakasabi ng mga tao kasi usually ginagamit yung, ay, bulag, bulag, bulag. Parang, alam mo yun, yung parang insulting or ganun yung dating. So, kaya siguro nagkakaroon ng parang bad word. Nagiging bad word siya for other people dahil dun sa kasama nung ano na yun, term na yun. Pero for me din, and for the rest of the VIFAL team, ayan, okay lang din sa amin yung identity first.
Alam mo,
Okay.
Jay,
Yes.
it's good that you mentioned it kasi pag tiningnan natin siya sa perspective ng Filipino as a language, wala kasi tayong ibang words. So yung
Yes.
bulag lang, yung bingi-bingi lang, yung may kapansanan lang. Sa Filipino kasi yung nagdi-dictate nun, it's not necessarily the political correctness, pero nagkakaroon ng parang factor yung relationships. So like when you're close or when you're family, when you're friends, or when you have an understanding of disability ganyan, no? Yung language, dadadala niya, parang bulag, o sige, pero alam mo naman na it comes from a friend, it comes from a family member, na wala siyang pangungutiang kasama.
Yes.
So, the relationship yung nagdi-dictate doon eh. So, yun, it's good thing that you mentioned it kasi yun nga, diba, yung intent, yung intent kasi yung nandun. So, yeah, it's good that you actually mentioned something along the lines of, it's actually how you use it, and yeah.
Yun,
Yeah.
dagdag lang ako, no? Yun nga,
Sige, go.
language is relative doon. So, depende rin talaga sa kung sino kausap. So, kung
Yes.
ang pinaka-importanting gawin talaga is ask that person kung ano, saan siya mas comfortable na tawagin, no? Yun ang very important sa akin. Kasi it's a relationship yun eh, towards other people. Kasi like sa atin, di ba? Okay lang sa atin, sabihin natin, mag-joke ako kay Jen, for example, sabihin ko kay Jen, natakbo tayo Jen, pareho kaming limping. So parang, which is fine, parang sa aming dalawa. Pero kung yung other abled people, no, di ba, na wala kapansanan, sabihin kaming tumakbo, yun na yung off na yun. That's foul na for us. So,
Yeah, okay. Sige. So, how about our viewers? Baka meron kayong mga gustong i-comment. Feel free to share your thoughts. Ayan, at babasahin po natin mamaya ang inyong mga comments. Okay. So, eto na. Journey to acceptance na. I-share naman ninyo kung ano yung naging history ninyo. Kasi di ba na-mention nyo kanina na dati parang off kayo dun sa disabled or yung binabanggit muna yung kapansanan before your yung inyong yung hindi siya person first kasi yung nakasanayan, di ba? So, paano nyo ba ito natanggap or paano ba kayo naging open dito sa ganitong concept? So, start tayo kay ayan, wala si Jasmin pala. Ayan, so shoutout sa'yo, Jasmin. Sana makahabol ka. Ayan, sige, start na lang tayo kay Sir Marco.
Ako, sige. Allergic talaga ako dun dati. Allergic ako dun dati. It's also one of the reasons why it took me so long to like seek for support services kasi I didn't want to be associated with disability groups. Parang ilag ako. Ilag ako dun sa idea. Siguro yung din yung if you remember na pag-usapan natin ito para dun sa mga nasa nakaraang live, yung concept din ng ableism. Siguro at some point meron din akong internalized na ableism na parang yung perception ko kasi of disability is something bad, it's something that's not good. So ilag ako sa kanya. Ayokong ma-associate. Pero like what I've mentioned earlier, the more that I studied about disability from different perspectives, and the more that I realize that it could be excellent opportunities like using yung accepting disability and talking about disability openly is an excellent way to open various issues, and when I realized that it's a good way to start talking about important topics, inclusion, access, disability pride, identity, representation. When I realized that accepting my disability is actually an opportunity, I started doing it kasi nakita ko yung merit, nakita ko yung value, and I saw it in myself kasi parang ako nagsusubscribe ako doon sa idea na yung concept ng recognition, yung social recognition starts with self-awareness. So doon ko siya na-realize na nga no, if I'm not going to see my own disability as a part of as something that's not bad, then other people are not gonna see it. So kung 'di ba alam mo yun, so parang I have to start it sa sarili ko, which is what happened to me, and the more yun nga I went from like not wanting to go into disability work to making disability my life career. So I mean, ganun yung naging journey ko. It's like a full circle from not wanting to be involved with anything to do with disability to making it my career. So yun siya.
Okay. So thank you, Sir Marco. Next, Sir Markus, and then Miss Jen.
Okay, so for me then, before I was a late bloomer to the sector. I joined the sector, I think 2011 lang when I was on my third year college na. So, hindi naman ako ganun ka-apathetic sa sector. But then before, hindi talaga, kasi I don't know someone na may kapansanan who could educate me about disability, kung ano yung disability, kung ano yung struggles ng sector. Like, medyo, magalutang ako sa nangyayari sa sector. So, hindi ko rin talaga alam kung kaya medyo yung acceptance ko sa sarili ko medyo late din. But then when I joined the sector, doon ko na-realize, somehow it's a calling for me to work for the sector. And the very first person na nakausap ko was a person in a wheelchair, na isang leader sa isang disabled people's organization sa Iloilo. And doon ko na-realize na, okay, like, alam mo yung parang may lukso ng dugo kasi you have the same struggle. Parang doon ko naramdaman yun. And then, doon ko unti-unting natanggap yung sarili ko as a person with disability. And it has become my bread and butter. I've done advocacy. And that made me think na parang, paano kung ma-share advocacy if me myself, I can't accept na may kapansanan ako, diba? That is part of my identity, it's part of who I am, and hindi naman na siya mawawala. Hindi naman mawawala yung pagkaroon ko ng cerebral palsy, but probably because of that advocacy, pwede natin tanggalin yung mga barrier that makes us disabled. So, yun. Because of that advocacy, syempre, di ba, it should start within you, na tanggapin. Mahirap siya tanggapin because of the barrier, the attitudinal barrier in your society. So I think people would have a better time in accepting themselves if tayo mismo, yung lipunan mismo ay tanggap na sa pagtanggap sa atin. So it's a two-way talaga na while we are accepting ourselves, dapat yung lipunan din tanggapin din tayo. So yun, for me, yung journey ko towards accepting myself as a disabled person.
Okay. Next, Miss Jan.
Ayan. Similar to Marco and Markus, nung simula talaga, tinatago ko siya actually. Parang I don't identify as disabled. Tapos, naging activist ako, hindi ko talaga siya pinapublicize na meron akong disability. I try to hide it At kaya ko magpa-platform heels ako, ganon, kasi hindi halata yung limb pag naka-platforms, yung pag nag-a-apply ako, hindi ako nagdi-disclose. Kasi nga, feeling ko, factor talaga na wala kang role model na magsasabi sa'yo na disability is not a bad word. Hindi masamang maging disabled. At hindi mo siya kasalanan. No? Parang, pero nung napunta ako sa Handicap International, I got to work with a lot of disability advocates. Na-realize ko, yung pagtanggap ko sa sarili ko bilang disabled, yun yung para makapag-push ako for accessibility, for inclusion. Kasi, di ba, paano mo ipupush kung ikaw sa sarili mo, hindi mo tanggap na person with disability ka. At nagkaroon chance to work with mga role models talaga. Yan, kagaya ni Markus, ni Marco, no, na nakaka-inspire. At marirealize mo na, we have a huge community. Malaki yung community natin, disability community, at magagaling tayo. Parang we have a new generation of disability advocates na napaka-progressive, very articulate, mga edukado. Bakit tayo mahihiya, di ba?
Yes.
So ako, ganun talaga eh. And doon na rin nag-focus yung career ko na parang how do we make workplaces, communities more inclusive and more accessible. Yan. Yun lang.
Okay, sige. So, nung simula, excuse me, yung dati din, nung bago-bago pa lang ako sa community, medyo umiiwas ako. Yung, kumbaga, nung first time ko dati na pumasok sa isang trainee school. Before, bata pa ako noon eh. Parang ayoko din bakit ba ako nandito? Parang gano'n, ano bang ginagawa ko dito? Parang, hindi ko din gusto i-identify yung sarili ko dati as blind, ganyan, or I'm not one of them. Parang gano'n yung ko dati. So, yun yung pa yung stage na, kumbaga hindi ko pa talaga fully accepted yung aking disability kasi medyo bago-bago pa. Okay, so, ayan, so keep the comments coming. Ayan, kung ano yung mga opinions niyo or your thoughts about our topic for tonight. Ayan, mag-comment lang po kayo sa ating mga viewers. Okay. So, next. Eto na. So, napansin ko naman, hindi ko na itatanong kung are you proud of your disability kasi, ayan na. So, kita naman po sa kanilang mga answers na very, very proud sila sa kanilang mga disabilities. So, paano po ninyo masasabi, so, bawat isa sa inyo, paano nyo masasabi na isang disabled person ay proud na sa kanyang disability? So, ano ba yung meron siya? Ano ba yung mga ways para masabi na you're proud of your disability? Yan, sige. Start na lang tayo kay ano ba to? Ayan, si Sir Marco, then si Miss Jen, and then si Sir Markus.
Sige. Ako yung una kong naisip, one of the things na common, na-mention na rin naman natin kanina, na-echo na rin namin, is self-advocacy. I think one sign of a person being or having disability pride is self-advocacy. Kasi nga yung sinasabi naman yung sinabi ni Markus kanina, 'di ba, the tagline of the UNCRPD, nothing about us without us. So any kind of decision that's being made regarding disability, disabled people should be part of that process. And nagustuhan ko yung sinabi ni Jen kanina, no, yung sinabi niya na when she applies for jobs, hindi siya nagdi-disclose. So doon natin mako-connect yung idea of disability pride na parang okay, you have disability legislation, you have laws that provide for certain services or programs, awareness, ganyan. Pero if a disabled person is not going to disclose that they have disabilities, they won't actually have access to those programs and services. So yung kung ano man yung legislation, ano man yung mga programa, or projects of government or non-profits or disabled people's organizations, if disabled people are not going to disclose their disabilities, walang kwenta yung mga programs, walang kwenta yung mga services kasi no one's going to access them. So double-edged siya, di ba? So aside from self-advocating for services, is actually using the services that are available, or programs or services that are designed for disabled people. So for me, one major sign, or if you're asking how does disability pride look like, it's self-advocacy. And self-advocacy yun nga in terms of fighting for availability of programs and using those programs when they actually become available. Yun yung isa. That's one of the things, first things that I actually thought of.
Okay, Sir Markus.
Ako, re-echo ko yung sinabi ni Marco. Sinabi niya na yung self-advocacy. So, yun. I think if you're comfortable about talking about disability every day, that's one sign na na-accept mo na yung that you are proud of being a disabled person. So, wala na akong madadagdag doon. Yun lang. Parang if you try to persuade other people to join your advocacy, then doon ka na, ano pa pala ito? If you can joke about your disability. If you can, if you can,
Sorry, bulado.
di ba, mag-joke mo na sa araw-araw, yan yung number one sign na tanggap mo na sarili mo and then you're proud of being one. So, yun.
Okay, so may dadagdag ka pa ba, Miss Jen?
Ako, apart dun sa mga sinabi nila, parang yun naman na talaga, matuto kang mag-advocate para sa sarili mo. Speak up if you have needs. Tapos yung mag-move beyond dun sa charity model na parang nagmamakaawa tayo for services. Na parang, please, pansinin nyo kami. Please, bigyan nyo kami. No, ibigay nyo kasi human right namin yan. Diba?
Yes.
Human right namin magkatrabaho, human right namin mag-go around the community. Hindi siya usapin ng awa. Hindi siya yung perspective na minsan pag may kapansanan ka, please maawa naman kayo sa mga PWD. Buti pa yung iba may natatanggap na 4Ps, kami wala. Parang ako, let's move beyond that. Let's push for human rights namin kung ano man yung meron kayo. Kaya dapat makuha namin siya. Diba? Hindi yung parang please tanggapin nyo kami. No, accept us because we are part of society. Parang ganon.
Yes. Yeah, so meron pa ba kayong may dadagdag?
May naisip akong isa.
Sige, go.
May naisip akong isa. One sign of disability pride is looking at disability as an intersectional issue. Kasi one thing about disability pride, you start to acknowledge that ableism is a form of discrimination. At saka yung ableism, kapatid niya yung iba-ibang klase ng discrimination. So sexism, misogyny, homophobia, racism, magkakapatid sila. Hindi sila pareho. They're by no means are they the same, pero related sila. So when you start to have disability pride, na-highlight niya rin kasi, di ba nga nasabi natin na yung disability pride, bahagi siya ng kabuuan, bahagi siya ng identity ng isang tao. So pag tiningnan mo yung isang part, if you look at one part, nakikita mo din yung ibang parts. So for example, if a person happens to be disabled and they happen to be a woman, for example, or they happen to be queer, or they happen to be part of indigenous people's communities, nakita nila na yung sistema na nag-o-oppress sa kanila ay isang sistema, and you start to see the different kinds of oppression as something related. So yun nga yung sinabi ni Jen, that you start to see disability as a human rights issue. Papasok na siya lahat. So you start to see women's rights incorporated within disability. You start to see queer people's rights as related to disability. You start to see rights of indigenous peoples or other racial minorities as part of the disability conversation. So kabit-kabit sila, and I think one sign of having disability pride is acknowledging that it is a human rights issue and that it is an intersectional issue, that nakakabit-kabit siya dun sa iba't ibang forms of oppression. Hindi lang siya ableism. Yun. So yun, I think that's another sign of disability pride, is seeing it as an intersectional human rights issue.
All right, sige. So napaka-fruitful ng ating conversation at ang dami na i-share na napaka nag-e-enlight talaga or pwedeng makapag-enlight sa mga viewers at pati na rin syempre sa amin, marami kami natutunan from our guests. Ayan. So, punta naman na tayo muna sa shoutouts and comments. Andiyan naman si Miss Carla. Miss Carla, are you there? Magparamdam ka? Paikutin ang baso. Paramdam ka, galawin mo yung baso. Miss Carla? Hello, Miss Carla? Andiyan ba siya?
Hello?
Ayan.
Hello.
Sige. So,
Ayan,
basahin mo na yung
sorry,
mga
ang dami kong
comments.
tab. Sige.
Sige, go.
Binaha tayo ng comments dito. So, yan.
Okay, sige. Basa ka muna ng comments dyan at ako'y inom muna ng water.
Okay, so, ang daming comment dito. Sige. Ano ko lang. Ayan, so. Okay, una tayo kay pangalan nito. Room Slick. Ayan, ano lang siya. Ganun lang. So, ayan. Then, si Miss Leona Santos. Ayun. Hi daw. I'm watching. I'm so excited for this. Sabi niya. Si Miss Leona yun.
Miss Leona.
Shoutout
sa iyo.
Doomsley. Yeah, Doomsley. Ang pangalan niya. Sabi niya, lagi ko na ring nilalagay ngayon blind sa mga profile/user name ko. Para direktahan na ha. Ayun. So,
oo nga, dati din hindi
siya.
ko nilalagay. Hindi ko yung sinasabi na blind ako dati.
Yeah.
Pero ngayon,
Yeah,
I'm proud. Bulag ako.
Yeah.
Yan. Sige, ano pa? Miss
Para
Carla.
mabilis.
Wala nang
Si
tanong-tanong,
Maria
ano?
Bless. Si Maria Bless Adriano.
Ay, si Bless.
Sabi niya. Yeah, good evening po. I'm so excited for the discussion. Red heart. Oh, red heart.
Yan. Hi,
Ayan,
Bless.
Pero nagpa-fluctuate lang po yung background sa volume ng voice ng ating speakers. Ayun, may ibabaan ng konti.
Hinanda ng konti.
Thank you sa inyong pati sa sounds natin. Thank you po. Ayan. Eto.
Hinamod
Ang
daw.
ating
Soundman.
commenter. Si Miss Leona ulit. Identity
Avid
first,
talaga si
language.
Leona.
Sound familiar, sabi niya. Yan. Hihi. Yan lang. Yan. Next pa, si Miss Leona ulit.
Ba?
Ano lang, siguro, nag-agree siya dun sa kaninang comment ng ating mga guests. Yeah, sabi niya gano'n. Ayan. Then, si Jerome Santiago, hi daw. Hello, Jerome. Ayan, tapos, si Doomsley ulit. Ayan.
Talaga naman,
Speaking of language, anong thoughts ninyo sa paggamit ng word na blind? Pag ang pagkakabit, ayan, ang pagkakabit ay, for example, ayan, purpose, sinabing, are you blind? When
okay.
what it means to say, it, are you
Yan,
Are
so
you-
ibig sabihin dyan, yung ibig sabihin dyan yung parang, yung connected siya sa stupid. Yung sabi, are you blind? Pag gano'n. Pag, kunwari, may nabangga yung tao na excited siya. Tapos, are you blind? Sasabihin gano'n. So, parang connected siya sa word na stupid. So, Sir Marco, meron ka bang say dyan?
Nabanggit na rin naman ni Markus kanina, di ba? Yung being conscious about the language you use. Part yun nun eh. Like, yung using it as an insult. Kasi insult siyang lumalabas. It becomes foul. Di ba na parang yun, nakabunggo mo, parang are you blind? Ganyan. Or, tinawag mo, di ka narinig. Di ba? Sabi mo, bingi ka ba? Are you deaf? Ganun. Or alam mo yun, it becomes an insult kasi eh. Babalik tayo dun sa sinabi ko kanina na sa intent kasi siya eh. 'Di ba? So even if bulag is actually an acceptable term, pero ginamit mo siya in a context that you're actually insulting somebody, kahit na gaano pa siya ka-politically, quote-unquote, politically correct na term, if you're actually using it to insult a person, it's offensive. 'Di ba? Kasi yung intent mo ay mang-insulto ng tao. So kahit na ano pang term yan, if your goal is to insult and to malign somebody, magiging masama siya. 'Di ba?
Okay, so thank you Sir Marco. Meron pa ba, Miss Carla?
Ayan, madami pa tayo dito. Ayan, si Raya Jimenez. Ayan, interesting discussion. Ayan, thank you po. Ito, meron naman. Si Leon Santos.
Talaga naman Leona Santos na yan.
Ayan.
Hi Leona.
Ayaw kong naririnig yung word na bulag. But when I finally learned to accept it, ako na ang nangunguna na magsabi na word na bulag.
Okay.
Hindi pala siya bad word. Hehehe. Ayan. Okay, Bromsley again. Okay, so or yung metaphor na blind. Leading the blind kapag ginagamit siyang pang-describe one ignorant person. Guiding another ignorant person. Yun, ganun din siya, no?
Oo.
Okay, doon again. Okay, so accepting your disability is a part of you. Yun. Ayan.
Yes.
Then Raya Jimenez again. There's a need to educate society about disability. Ayan. Visually impaired. Ayan. So, Raya Jimenez again. Disability is a term, but it doesn't define what person would. Ayan. Then, Domsley again. Agree kung kaya mo nang mag-joke about your disability. Yun. Si Sharina Mercado.
Ayan, si Zarina.
Hi, good evening, sorry. Ayan, ulit. Relate sa nagagawang joke sa sarili ang disability. Yung mga able person na yung nako-conscious or for me. Okay, nako-conscious for me. But I say it is fine with me. Nothing wrong with it. Yun, nothing wrong with it. Ayun. And okay lang naman daw sa kanya.
Meron pa, Miss Carla? So, meron pa tayo 5 minutes. Sige, go.
Okay. I think na lang daw, may shout out. Chris Planas, hi po. Hello, hi.
Yan, hi Chris.
Yan, a blessed evening. Ayun, okay. Yun na yun.
Yun na
That's
yun.
all
Okay.
for our comments.
Alright, thank you Miss Carla for the shoutouts, and sa mga nanonood ngayon na hindi po nakapag-comment, ayan, shoutout na rin po sa inyo. At pati rin kay Jasmin, pahinga ka muna dyan, girl. Ayan, so bawi ka na lang next time. Ayan, so pagaling ka muna, pahinga-pahinga. Ayan, sige. So, salamat po sa lahat ng mga nag-shoutout or nag-comments at nagpa-shoutout. Ayan. Sana na-enjoy nyo po at marami rin kayo natutunan. Katulad namin, marami kami talaga natutunan dito sa mga guests namin. Okay, so malapit na po tayong magtapos, pero bago po natin tapusin ang ating live, so final thoughts po from our guests. Unahin na lang natin si Miss Jen. Yan, final thoughts.
Ayan. Bago ako mag-final thoughts, thank you muna sa pag-invite. Thank you so much. Sana maulit.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Siguro para sayang, parang yung mga person with disability, akuin natin yung identity natin Tapos, recognize that we are the experts. Tayo ang eksperto sa sarili nating kondisyon. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Diba? Kahit doktor pa yan, kahit parent mo pa yan, kahit yung pidaw head pa yan, huwag ikaw ang eksperto sa sarili mong kondisyon at boses mo ang dapat pinakinggan. Kasi karapatan mo yon at katawan mo yon. So yun lang talaga. Kasi maraming mga experts on disability na sinasabi nila speak for people with disabilities. Kung expert ka talaga at advocate talaga, palakasin mo ang boses ng taong may kapansanan. Huwag kang magsalita para sa kanila. Dahil sila dapat ang nagsasalita para sa mga sarili. Yun lang. Thank you.
Thank you. Grabe. Ayan, next si Sir Markus.
Ayan, for me, ang gusto ko lang ihabilin sa mga tao is that disability is a social construct and we could break it. No?
Yes.
So, we could break it by removing the barriers, of course. No? So, pagtanggal natin ng barrier, matatanggal natin ang konsepto ng disability sa ating lipunan. So, huwag natin isipin na we are being disabled by our bodies, but rather we are being disabled by our society. And syempre, society din natin magpapa-able sa atin. So, dapat ang lipunan talaga may malaking role sa pagbago, sa pagtatanggal ng mga barrier o ng mga sagabal sa atin bilang mga taong kapansanan. And sana hindi sila yung mga taong may kapansanan, hindi sila mapagod at matuto at also to break yung mga notion about them. Kasi minsan yung mga ibang taong may sorry, CP strikes again. Nagsistutter ako. So, ano tawag nito? Yung mga tao kasi parang ibang tao may kapansanan, minsan hindi rin nila alam. So, be open in learning things and also to unlearn things din sa ating about sa ating kapansanan. No? So, yun lang, be proud of who you are as a person with disability and go out there. Although it's a process, no? Kagaya lang din yan ng gender. No? You can out yourself as a person with disability on your own pace. It's your own journey, and I hope it could be a good journey, and you will learn things along the way. So yeah, be proud of who you are. Be proud as a disabled person. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us. Of course, this is a very productive podcast, especially that we are all youth here, no? Kasi alam naman natin sa sector, the sector is aging. Lagi natin narinig yung salita, yung mga matatanda lamang. Parang it's time for us now to reclaim the space para sa mga kabataang may kapansanan, no? Or those belong sa youth sector. Kasi usually sa sector natin, tayo yung walang boses. No? So, thank you so much for inviting us.
Yes. Thank you, Sir Markus. Next, Sir Marco?
It has something to do with yung susunod na logical step with disability identity is building disability culture. So if you're a disabled person, create, amplify and magnify your voice as a disabled person. So if you're a creative, magsulat ka, gumawa ka ng music, make art, participate in discussions, perform. If you're in the sciences, create inventions for disabled people, create disabled spaces if you're an architect with the disability. Kasi by doing so, we start, alam niyo yun, it's also participating in that disability conversation. Not per se conversing, like talking about it, but by creating things by disabled people, for consumption of disabled people and other people actually, ginagawa natin yung nagpa-participate tayo dun sa malakihang conversation about disability. So let's create disability culture. Mag-create tayo ng materials, ng products, outputs as disabled people. Gawin natin siya and let's participate in various avenues. Gawin natin siya, mag-participate tayo. Let's make ourselves visible. Let's represent ourselves sa lahat ng bagay na ginagawa natin because as Markus mentioned, yun nga, it helps to break barriers surrounding disability. Participate, create. Yun yung sa akin. Let's help build disability culture. Yun.
Okay. So, thank you so much po sa inyong tatlo sa pag-attend sa sa live natin. So, si Jasmin kahit di siya nakarating. So, meron next time pa naman, Jas. May invite ka ulit namin. So, sana po next time ay ma-invite po ulit namin kayo for another productive and fruitful conversation. So, kanina ko pa sinasabi na sobrang dami po namin natutunan na yung mga words na yun kapag for example sa ibang seminars na i-discuss, parang hindi siya naiintindihan or so parang ano siya, di ba? Pero ngayon is napaliwanag nyo and napalawak nyo in a way na maiintindihan man ng ibang mga tao. So thank you so much po for your time. Thank you for your yung inyong mga na-share na knowledge sa lahat. Ayan. So thank you po. And before we end, ayan, so promote na din po namin muna ang aming Facebook page, www.facebook.com/VIFashion and lifestyle. Ayan. Subscribe na rin po kayo sa aming YouTube channel. Ito po, Visually Impaired Fashion and Lifestyle. Follow us on Twitter at VIFALPH, VIFALPH. Yan po yung aming Twitter. And yung mga content pa rin po namin, yung aming VIFAL podcast, meron po kami sa channel. And then, available din po kami sa SoundCloud, sa Spotify, and other podcast platforms. And of course, yung aming video series, Do Blind People Think the Same? At yung aming next episode, which will be out sa August. Ayan, pag-uusapan din po na parang summary po ng ating live ngayon. It's about the labels na gustong maitawag ng mga blind and visually impaired sa kanila. Ano yung mga preferred labels na gusto nilang itawag sa kanila. So abangan nyo po yan and yung mga iba pa naming contents na papalabas sa mga susunod na weeks. Ayan. So, wala na ba akong nakalimutan? Again, thank you so much sa ating mga guests, sa ating technical team. Yan, si Miss Beverly Bravo. Yan, thank you. Mr. Jake Reynado or Rimarjo. Yan, Sir Jake, thank you. And Miss Carla. Ayan, thank you so much. And sa ibang VIFAL team na hindi po nakasama ngayong live, si Jai and si Ninya, hello. And thank you din sa inyong patuloy na pag-support. At sa lahat po ng mga nanood, nakinig, nag-comment at nagpa-shout out. Thank you so much. And see you on our next live dito pa rin, sa same channel. And last Saturday or Friday, i-announce na lang po namin kung kailan yung next live namin. So, kita-kits po ulit sa susunod. Thank you so much and have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Miss Jen, Sir Markus, and Sir Marco. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you everyone. Salamat.
Yes.